And here we go. All right, welcome, icons, to the Icon of the Month interview. Today is April 12th, 2018, and I've got a very special guest. His name is Greg Gorman. Now, Greg is in Naples, Florida, and we've got a little bit of a technology issue, so bear with me 1 second. Very special guest. His name is Greg Gorman. Now, Greg we got a little delay here, don't we? We've got a little bit of a technology issue, so bear with me 1 second. Very special guest. I love listening to myself, right? Twice. Okay, great. So here we go, buddy. We're going to dive right in. Greg is going to talk to us about 4 things. First, he's going to talk to us about how he can take off 3 months a year, a month at a time, and still, exceed 25 million in total sales volume. He's also going to talk to us about the difference between competition and relationships in your business and the growth of that business. He's going to talk about working a job versus working opportunities. He's also going to talk to us about consistency versus competency. And then finally, creating your legacy in real estate. So I'm very excited to hear from you, Greg. How are you, buddy?
It's a pleasure to be here today. I appreciate it. It's and I hate to do this because I know you're broadcast from all over the country, but it's in the 80s today, blue skies, and a nice breeze outside. It's a pleasure to be here today. I appreciate it. It's I hate to I know you're broadcast.
Bear with me 1 second.
Nothing like live broadcast, right?
Okay. Now I'm back. We had a little bit of a challenge there. Okay. Bear with me, everybody. Hang on. Hang tight. Here we go. And they're off again. Here we go. So, Greg, talk to us about competition versus relationships. What does that mean to you?
Well, let me just throw this out there first. This is my 27th year in real estate. I go to a lot of conventions, a lot of training, a lot of events, and I kind of got burned out by all these coaches and all these trainers pushing me and pushing me and pushing me and telling me that competition is the name of the game. And I realized for myself, competition is not the name of the game. It's, for me, it's been relationships. And I think we're all competitive by nature, or at least a good majority of us are that have stepped into this real estate career. However, the competition is not my motivation anymore. If there's any competition, maybe it's when I open up my bank account, when I look at that on a daily basis. That means something different to each of us, by the way. And I don't need to compete with the person that's sitting across the room for me. Competition is all in-house. However, competition, when we get all this incredible training that's out there, is just bang, 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 beat your head, be number one. And you really have to define what being number one means. Is it being number one in the office, being the number one in your head, being the number one on your team? That means so many things to different people. I think the more healthy relationship to have in real estate is just that, building relationships. When you have strong relationships, competition doesn't matter anymore. I think there's a huge mind shift that you can have. Instead of being so competitive, that you are more relationship building. Your friends and your relationships will not let you fail, by the way. They'll always want you to be at the top of any scale. So that competition is not the drive, it's the relationships.
Right, yet most goals, and I'll say the best goals, are intrinsically motivated as well as extrinsically motivated. And I think we need a healthy dose of that to some level. Would you agree?
I do. A kick in the pants is always going to be good, as long as it's moving you in the right direction, because sometimes that kick in the pants could be putting you into depression. We don't want that. And again, relationships are not going to put you into a depression.
Well, and I think that's important, gang, because this always has been, it is today, and it always will be a relationship-driven business. So, Greg, why don't you share with us a couple of tricks of the trade? How is it that you form relationships on purpose?
Well, there's some key basic points that we do in real estate to build relationships. And I'm going to just throw out, I'm sure you've heard these often. We never hear them often enough, but it's doing things like learning the basic skills of how to listen and how to build a beginning relationship with people. And that's by a simple acronym called FORD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So you want to build a relationship by learning about other people. Don't tell them how famous you are. You don't tell them how fabulous you are, how many deals that you've done. They don't care about that stuff. They do care that you're interested in them. They're interested in their career, in their family, what motivates them. I think in our earlier call, we were talking with one another, Sean, and I'm asking you what motivates you today. What's pushing you to do what you're doing today? If I asked you 10 years ago, it would have been something completely different. But it's catching up in a small window. Now, we've known each other for probably 15, 18 years. It's catching up today. And because we have that relationship, we can pick up where we left off. If it's just about competition, I'm going to have a simple phone call with you, hang up, and next. And where am I at the end of the day? So there's a huge thing about relationships. Now, to keep that relationship moving forward, we do lots of things. One, if we find something like when I'm reading the newspaper this morning, we have a car museum in Naples, and one of my Canadian clients is a huge Corvette fan, and they're having this special exhibit of very rare Corvettes that they've collected from around the world. So I sent that link to their email from my newspaper this morning because I read that online. That builds a relationship. It tells that person that I'm thinking about them today because I know what interests that they have outside of buying or selling a house. We have to take off our realtor hats. What really motivates them, and it's that love of food, love of cars, love of travel. And if you know a little bit about that, about your clients, then when you read or you find something of interest to somebody else, then share that. That builds that long-term relationship. Now, let's do a little bit in on that.
Let me drill down on that just real quick, Greg, because one of the greatest ahas I ever had, and it was early in my sales career, gang. I want you to get it too, and that is that our prospects, guys, they don't care about us. I mean, it's a harsh reality, right? Yet they're a prospect. They don't care about us. What they do care about is how they feel when they're with us. So I want you to tune into what Greg's saying, because what he's talking about is that it's not about you. It was never about me. Sadly, it kind of was. I was an ego-based individual clear up until 2008. Yet getting away from that ego, making it all about them. Guys, that's where you're going to find the relationships. And when they're in relationship with you, when they know you, when they like you, when they trust you, guys, that should lead to a professional relationship as well. Right, Greg?
It does. And we have to throw out what we grew up with, because in my generation, what we taught in schools was the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them. So now we're into the platinum rule. So do unto others as they would want to be done unto. So finding out what's important to them and treating them the way they want to be treated to. Not the way we think we should treat them, because that's how we feel. So it's just that mind shift. And you can't have that unless you know anything about them. You ask questions, go 3 deep. So if you find out they went to school at a certain university, then that gives you an opportunity to ask many more questions. Well, what did you study there? Were you in a fraternity, a sorority? Did you go to sports games? Find out what's important to them. If they're a little older generation, ask them about their grandkids. If they're in the millennial crowds, maybe they didn't go to school, so what's motivating them? What keeps them busy?
There you go. So you used a term, going 3 deep. Explain that to everybody for those that don't know.
So 3 deep is simply this. If I ask you a question, you give me an answer. Don't move on to another subject or another thought pattern. Ask them a follow-up question. So I went to the University of Tennessee originally, but that's not my school today. So I could ask someone, well, what did you study? I studied business while I'm there. What did you do for fun? While I was in a fraternity. Well, which one were you in? And can you tell me a little bit about your fraternity life? What did that mean? About how many people did you meet? Why did you join a fraternity? Do you still go back to the school? Are you an alumni? It could be about anything. So if you went to a hairstylist school, why did you choose that? Have you been happy in your career? Does that take you on travel? So that's going 3 deep. They answer a question, and you follow back up with another question. And here's something that's real estate specific on a question. We're going through showing a property, and a client makes a comment about the carpeting or the wall paint. You can do 1 of 2 things. You can ignore it. Well, other than the wall paint, is there anything that bothers you about the property? And it's really not about the color of the walls or the carpet. It's how you're going to ask questions. Is this going to be the home for you? Follow up. Other than that, would this make a nice home for you? Are there anything else that would make this work for you and your family.
Gotcha. So you can use that in handling objections as well, as what I hear you saying.
Exactly. Go 3 deep no matter what, because
Love it.
oftentimes the first question that you ask, you're going to get, well, we're in a store shopping, and we're asked, can I help you with anything? No, I'm just browsing. If you're in a Kmart or a lower inbox store, that sales associate's going to walk away. I will guarantee you, if you're shopping in Nordstrom, that's just the opening to a great relationship, because they won't let that just browsing. That's awesome. Would you like to look at pants today, or are you in shopping for a suit? I've got some great new suits. Let me show you over here if you've got two seconds. To buy a suit, well, we're going to need a new shirt. This tie is made perfect for this whole ensemble. So that's going 3 deep. You don't get that if you ask a question and then let it pass. You're never going to get that.
That's exactly right. So you used a term called bird-dog relationships. So tell us, how is it that you're creating that domino effect in your relationship building?
Well, you have to foster bird dogging. If you've never heard of that term before, that's creating raving fans. Our generation, we call them bird dogs. Those people are always looking out for you, or they're looking for birds that are out there, and they'll tell you about them. If you send out a bird dog in a field, they're not going to find the birds. They're going to signal back to you where they are. So creating those relationships really depends on how you want to run your business. You have to ask. And you have to be good at asking, and you have to be good at asking and not make it seem or feel like we're asking for business. We really should be asking about people and opportunities that are out there. So we do lots of things. One, we send out dozens of emails a day. It's time to have a coffee chat with Greg. It's time to have coffee with David. Are you available on Monday, or would Thursday be better? Would you like to go to a coffee shop in my neighborhood, or would you like me to come to you? Those are the kind of things that build these long-lasting relationships. Now, Sean, we were talking earlier today. Now, you asked me about client events. We don't even call them anymore. We call ours legendary events, because people now they will fight to get into one of our events, no matter what it is. So we really have a good time doing that. And we just do things that we like doing. We find out what other people like doing. Some of our most requested events are threefold. One, they're cooking schools. We've done them in places like Sur La Table. We've also done them in our house. And any place you can have a wine or a scotch tasting or a beer tasting event, my clients are all in. So we like putting on those events.
Nice. So they're legendary events. And is that what you call them in your marketing and your campaigns and things like that?
We do, because it's all about expectation. And if I just call them a client party, I tell you what, the attendance just wouldn't be very high. And what do you think about having a client event versus a legendary event?
Right. So let's pause from the agenda for a moment. I just want to ask a couple of other questions here that I think will give people some insight as to how it is you can close over $25 million a year, take over 3 months a year off, and net the type of percentage that you're netting in your business. Yet what I want to do is I just want to rewind the tape. I want you to think back to your early days in real estate. What was the first thing that you did that you found traction with?
Consistency. For the first 2 years in the business, I did not take a day off. I was new to the career. I was new to Naples. I knew that I had a strong work ethic, and I just had to put that out there every single day. And being in a destination market, when I moved to Naples, I think there were fewer than 100,000 people in the entire county. And then I knew if I were going to have any kind of attraction, I'd have to be out there in front of a lot of people every day. In the winter months, we kind of grew by double, and we're still doing that today. So those off months made me feel very lonely. So I would just sit out in an open house every single day. If I were not with a client, I'd be out in an open house. I would, before I had my own listings, I would find listings inside my company in high traffic areas, and I just pounded that every single day. I would go to a community, a repeat community. I would know everything about that community. I would know as much as I could about the people who live there and about the amenities around that location. So over and over and over again, I became very competent in what I was sitting in. I area that I was in, knew everything about it that I could. I just didn't miss.
Right. So, guys, if you're listening to this and you don't have a lot of business, I want you to hear what Greg's saying. It's going to take a solid work ethic. It's knowing what to do. It's knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and then saying it to as many people as possible, right? So by getting between the buyer prospect and a home that they might buy by doing a daily open house, I think it's a great strategy to start filling your pipeline. Now, Greg, I want to share a model with you and everybody else on this call. Just do me a favor. And what I want you to do is take a pen and paper. I want you to draw a pyramid. And then what I want you to do is 4 horizontal lines so that the vertical gap between each line turns out to be about the same. You're gonna have 5 sections of this pyramid, okay? So at the bottom of the pyramid, I want you to write this word, foundation. Foundation. Now, foundation really comes in 4 basic categories. And the foundation of your business, it's you. And what makes up you and your state of being in your business is first, your knowledge. Second would be your mindset. Third, well, that's your skill set, your skills, right? And finally, number 4 is your habits. And I think the 4th is probably the most important. Remember, F.M. Alexander said that people do not decide their future, they decide their habits. And their habits then decide that future, right? So, Greg, as you hear me talking about foundation, and you're newer to the business, what did you do to improve your knowledge?
Well, it's much easier, I will say today, than it was back then. When I started business in 1992, we had MLS books. So I would take an MLS book with me to an open house, and I would go from page, this sounds really foreign to a lot of you, but I would go page by page looking at every single listing that's in there. So if someone showed up at my open house and that was not the property for them, then I would be a little familiar with what else was out there, and I could guide them to it.
Awesome. Now, tune in on that, guys, because if you don't position yourself to possess something that prospect wants, well, then you're stuck in the follow-up game. And that feels like a hamster on a hamster wheel to me, right? So rather, positioning yourself to possess something that they want. In Greg's case, it was an MLS book. In your case, at an open house, what I'd recommend you do is you bring your laptop. You go down to Office Depot, and for $49, you can get a lightweight inkjet printer. And make sure you have Wi-Fi. See, because here's the point. Buyer prospects look at properties they can't afford. Isn't that right, Greg?
Right, absolutely.
Of course. And so when they come in and you start learning what it is that they're after, you have them complete a survey, not just a little yellow legal pad where they put their name, email address, and phone number. No, a survey that actually qualifies this prospect. So you know whether or not you're going to invest your time with them. And then based on what they've completed on the survey, you could say, well, you know, I've brought my laptop, I've got a printer, and I want to find out a little bit more about what you're truly looking for. So tell me, how many bedrooms do you need? And you sit down at the computer and you start typing it in. How many bathrooms? How many car garage? Newer home, older home, lot size, school district, and then you click how many. Oh, good news, there's 6 listings that match your unique criteria. I'm just gonna go ahead and print them right now. And as you print them, you start showing them how to read them, and you give them a job. You say, I want you to create an A list of properties, meaning these are the ones I wanna see the inside of, and a B list means, well, they're not right for one reason or another. Now, once they've got their A list of properties together, and let's say there's 3 of them that they wanna see the inside of. Greg, how easy do you think it is now to set an appointment?
Much, because it would be much easier, because now you've got 3 things that they're truly interested in. All you have to help them is what's next. Which one works best for you? Can you imagine yourself in this neighborhood? Is that your expectation?
There you go. And it all starts with your ability to position yourself to possess something that they want. See, when that's you, you're the one who's delivering that to them, well, then they're going to look at you as a trusted resource. You've begun establishing a relationship based on the needs of the prospect as well. So next point, as it relates to foundation, Greg, the mindset. What is it that you've done to really improve that mindset to make it more empowering than limiting?
Well, I look at mindset probably different than a lot of people. Mindset is what you do every day. I'm actually writing a book. And it's not going to be ready for a while. However, it's a very powerful tool that we have, and one that's the mirror. So the thrust of this book is going to be how to talk to crazy while looking in the mirror. So you can have coaching, you can have accountability, won't mean anything until you get into your own head first. You have to look in the reflection of yourself first. It's what motivates you in the morning. I love to read. I love to listen to podcasts. I love positive motivation. Somebody who does that very well, that's kind of a it girl right now, is Mel Robbins. Not Mel Robbins through her book or her tapes. It's MELROBBINS, and her premise is the 5-second rule. It will change your life. There's so many things that we don't want to do, and we can just count them down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action. Get into your own mind first. Make your intentions known to yourself first, and then you take action. So mindset leads to intentions. You kind of work your way up that pyramid that you just gave us, because mindset will lead to skills, it'll lead to habits, and it'll lead to success. All those things work hand in hand together.
Good job. All right. So what have you done throughout your career to improve your skill set?
Well, I just gave you a little tip on that. I am and will always be a forever student. I am inquisitive. I'm interested in what's out there. I'm interested in what's next. I'm also interested in learning and keeping up with the basics, because it's really easy for us in our business to forget what got us to our first sale, our third sale, our 100th sale. And then we can get a little cocky and forgetful, and we think we're going to run on our own energy and our own reputation. And that really isn't the case, because if you face that, you may be facing misery and decline. So we need to also continue to learn basics, how to improve on the basics, because there's no magic in real estate. And the reality is, we don't own buyers, we don't own sellers. We just have service, skills, energy, and experience, right?
Absolutely. Good job. Now, let's have a talk about habits, because most people, they form habits without intention. I mean, consciously, we build business plans, right? Consciously, we set goals, yet most of us will form habits subconsciously, meaning something happens, right? We have a certain reaction and we get a result. And yet the next time that something happens, well, generally speaking, we have the same reaction, don't we? We've brought that reaction to the point of automaticity, and we get the same result, right? So oftentimes, in order to get to better, gang, we've got to get to different, right? And we know what Albert Einstein said about doing the same thing over and over, expecting different result, right? So tell me, Greg, from your perspective, give us maybe a habit or 2 or 3 that you think realtors should really consciously focus on owning. What do you think?
Wow, that's a big question. And I will say this about habits as well, and this would be a question for everybody. Habits turn into things that a lot of times don't have any consequence until the habits really entwine. And I will say that, let's use eating, for example. Eating through fast food will lead to pain, weight gain, things like that. And those can form that habit, and until months or even years go by, you're not going to feel the pain of that. So we have to have an instrument to measure back. We need feedback. We need accountability. So having said that, the things that we need to do every day, we need to be consistent. What feeds our business? What is our real estate business about? And if one, without people, it's meaningless. So we have relationships. We have agent relationships that we need to depend on, because our conversation today, we're learning and sharing with each other. Without that, our business can become meaningless. Without buyers and sellers, if we don't build those relationships, our business is fruitless, right? Unless you're a trust fund baby and you're just doing this for the humor of it on a daily basis. So the skill set of basics, it's being nose to nose, toes to toes, belly to belly. It's making those phone calls, writing those letters. And Sean, you didn't ever ask me this question. I think one of the best skills that I've ever learned from any instructor on any level in any business is having the intention and the skill to write 5 to 10 thank you notes every single day, because you don't know where those relationships are going to lead.
And that in and of itself is a habit, right? I love Warren Buffett's quote about habits. He says, "The chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be carried." And you use the example of fast food every day, right? And this business, guys, it can consume us. And I wonder how many people on this webinar have eaten at McDonald's and didn't want to. right? They just kind of were by default had to, because they were too busy. They were booked here, they were booked there, and that was the only thing that they could do, right? We did have a question come in before we get back to this pyramid, guys. In fact, Gail Satcher, she, I believe is in your market area. She asked the question, she said, what's the one thing that you and David are doing now that you wish you had done when you first started? Great question.
That is an awesome question. One are the thank you notes, because that's changed our business completely. We got also away from the basics way too soon in our careers. And when we turn that ship back around and we'll get back to the basics, there is no replacement for that. I mean, new business is just not going to show up on your new door. You actually have to create the opportunity to flow to.
No doubt, no doubt. And the basics of this business, guys, the blocking and tackling, that's really easy. You know, the 20% effort of a real estate agent that yields 80% of their results in Pareto's principle, right? It's simple. It's lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and finally, number 5 is practice your skills, right? Because you got to know what to say, you got to know how to say it, and you got to say it to enough people. And when you boil it down, those are the 3 things that we can really control in this industry, right? For the most part, everything else is outside of our control. Yet how much energy, how much time do you see people wasting attempting to control the uncontrollable? You can face it. You can't control the buyer's credit score. You can't control the fact that 2 days before the closing, they went out and bought a new car on credit, right? You can't control a lot of those things that unfortunately do in fact happen. Yet when you focus on those 3 things, those metrics, guys, knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and say it to enough people, you will achieve extraordinary success. Go ahead, Greg.
So that leads me to a thought. You were talking about the 3 little things. There is one little 3-letter word that can change your business. And we get in fear of all this all the time on a daily basis. And that 3-letter word is ask. Most of us don't move forward because we have this fear of asking for this. We have this fear of asking for the relationship. We have this fear of asking for the information. That's a simple thing. You have to be comfortable with asking.
No doubt about it. In fact, in the book No Bull Selling, they outline that 44% of real estate sales associates never asked for an appointment in their case studies, meaning they were just order takers. And let's face it, even a blind squirrel will find a nut from time to time where the buyer will actually close them on seeing a house, right? And they'll show up. And again, they're an order taker. The people want to buy it. Yay, happy day, right? Yet 44% of agents just don't even ask. He goes through the statistics. Yeah. 92% of agents quit after asking for an appointment 4 times. They just quit. Yet he also references in the book that 60% of home buyers will say yes after the 5th time you ask. So what does that mean? It means 8% of the realtor population are getting more than 60% of the business. So when you develop the ability, and by the way, I'm talking about on the same phone call, by the way. Okay. So you're asking for the appointment 5 times. So when you've developed the ability to deal with the objection, handle the objection, and reposture and ask again for the appointment, well, then you're going to be so much better than the average agent out there. Because you'll close for an appointment and they'll say, well, let me talk to my spouse and I'll call you back, right? Does that ever happen, Greg? And we got a little bit of a glitch.
Our spouse on the phone.
Okay, he's back. Okay, say it one more time because we had a little bit of a delay there. Go ahead.
So we have to ask. Why not ask if we can get that spouse on the phone with us? Let's find out what's important to her, because that may lead to other questions.
I love it. No doubt about it. So here's my input. If they say, let me talk to for example, let me talk to my wife, I'll call you back. What they're doing is playing good guy, bad guy, right? Oh, I'm the good guy. It's my wife. She's the real bad person, not me. So when you turn it back around on them, they'll say yes to this question every single time. So you say, well, I certainly understand, and I certainly don't blame you. You know, at the same time, let me just ask. If it's okay with your wife to meet with me, is it okay with you? And remember, they're the good guy, right, Greg?
You have to show them that they're a good guy, and what good come from that.
Right. So they'll always say yes. Then you could take Greg's approach. Well, let's see if we can conference them in. Or maybe better yet, let's just pencil in a time that you think is going to work best for your wife. I'll call you the day before to confirm. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, well, then I'll just simply reschedule the appointment. So tell me, when do you think your wife would be able to get together with us? Is it weekdays or weekends? See, then you've asked twice. They say, well, can you just email me the listings? You've got to have a rebuttal strategy and then reposture and yet ask again. And I don't want to dominate the call. I want to make this all about Greg. Yet, guys, your ability to ask, your knowledge around closing for an appointment, right? Your mindset to just even ask the question in the first place, your skill set will help you get that appointment. And then finally, the habit of consistently asking, that 3-letter word, Greg, that you brought to all of our attention is critical. Good job. Great job. So what I want to do, Greg, I want to go further up this pyramid and I want to ask some questions around it. So the next step in this pyramid is pipeline. So this is your lead generation. This is your lead follow-up. You're focused on filling the pipeline, right? So Greg, tell me, what have you and David done to really keep that pipeline consistently full and clients coming out the back end of it?
Well, that's, again, building relationships and then having opportunities that you get to meet with those clients. Because once they buy or sell, it may be a few years before they're in another opportunity to buy and sell. However, you should not let them go on their own way. Don't let those sheep stray. So going back and building relationships, doing those legendary events that we do, bring them back into the fold. That's especially important when we're working with destination people. Those are the ones who've moved into our neighborhood from another state, another area. They have no friends. So why not have a legendary party? Find out where they're from, find out who you know that have roots back in those old neighborhoods, and put those people together. Now you're becoming a hero, not only to your own business and to yourself, but you're creating relationships that didn't exist before. And I will tell you, when you have 2 of your past clients or current clients that you've put together, anybody that they know that even breathes the word real estate, they're going to be accountable to each other. They're going to say, well, you have to meet our friend Greg. You're going to have to go to meet David. They know everything about this community. In fact, they introduced us. So they're going to be your bird dogs. They're going to be your apostles, if you will, that's out there. So that's how you constantly, it's an intention to keep all those relationships going. You have to ask them, how are things with a house that you sold 3 or 4 years ago? You know, in 7 to 12 years, they're going to replace that house or help them find people who can help them to remodel that house. And that's a big thing that we do here. If you're in an old house, I tell my clients when they're buying into brand new neighborhoods, be prepared in 9 years to have this conversation with me that we're going to be moving or you're going to remodel. So those are your choices, because if you don't do anything to your home now, you're going to let your value slip. So again, that's an intention. That's a script. That's an opportunity for us that would be out there. Maybe 5 years you follow up. How are you doing with your house? You constantly send them things to help improvement. You give them coupons from your local discount stores. Home Depot runs things all the time. Did you see that? You know, it's probably time that you maintain or replace something that's out there.
Good job, Greg. No doubt. So what you're doing is you're future casting and setting an expectation that they'll either be remodeling or listing the home for sale, right?
I never want them out of my sight. I always want to give them something of value, whether it's a coupon to a local restaurant, something they can do for their own home, or taking someone to a car museum because that's important to them. That's the pipeline, by the way. It's not about expanding how many homes that they buy. You'll know that if you get into a relationship with them.
No doubt. And you'd mentioned contacting for sale by owners, expired listings, and things like that as well, because obviously the only way to grow your database, gang, is to talk to people you've never spoken with before. And so I'd encourage you to add some intention around that. How many people do you want to add to your database this year? And let's do some simple math. Based on that number, how many do you need to add per month? Okay, based on that number, how many per week, how many per day, so on and so forth. Guys, let's break it down to bite-sized pieces that you can just quickly implement and deploy within your organization. So moving on from pipeline, those that have tenacity, which Greg and David definitely do, they'll springboard into the next phase of this pyramid model. And that next phase is momentum. So momentum is a fun place to be, isn't it, Greg?
Yes, it can be. Absolutely.
It can also be
as long as you know how to control, as long as you know how to control your schedule. Absolutely.
No doubt. It can also be a terrifying place to be, and let me tell you why. Because realtors, in most cases, they're going to view this model as an or instead of an and. Meaning they think, okay, I'm either in pipeline or I'm in momentum. And no, you're in foundation and you're in pipeline and you're in momentum. So when you get into momentum, you got to be cautious not to get sucked down into the weeds, to babysit the transactions, handhold the transactions. This is where complacency kind of sets in a little bit, and prospecting and lead follow-up becomes something, well, I can just do that tomorrow. And they're going to procrastinate and procrastinate. This creates a very cyclical level of income as well as production. So like January sucks, right? So they get on the phone, they lead generate, they do the lead follow-up, and February turns out to be pretty decent as a direct result. Yet throughout February, they got sucked down in the weeds, right? So they stopped the lead generation, they stopped the lead follow-up, they left the business on the table. So March sucks, and April's incredible, right? And then May's not so great, yet June is off the charts, right? That's a short road to burnout, gang. So when you view this model and you say, okay, it's an and, not an or, meaning we're always in foundation. See, many of us want to be bigger. We want to be better, don't we? And yet for us to be bigger and be better, we've got to improve our knowledge, our mindset, our skills, and our habits. And of course, we're also in pipeline constantly in this business, which gets us to momentum. And then the next phase in the model, which is also an and, not an or, is leverage. So leverage also comes in 4 categories. And Greg, I want you to talk to this. The first area of leverage is through models. So what type of models have you identified and implemented in your business? What I'm talking about is like lead generation models, lead follow-up, your customer appreciation, well, they're not customer, excuse me, your legendary events, your economic model, your budget models, things like that. What models have you implemented into the business? And can you maybe drill down a little bit on that?
Sure. One that comes to mind pretty quickly is farming. I could never have had the success that I and my team have had without farming. And that's something that you do every day. Can you imagine being a food production person with a farm, and you had an explosive season where you had loads of crops and production, and you thought, well, okay, so I'm going to coast on this, and winter comes, spring comes, and you still have this momentum idea, and it no longer exists because you didn't plant any new seeds. You didn't water those seeds. So in farming, that's one great way. And we have one particular area that we dominate, and we've dominated for 20 years in one place, but we cannot rest on that because every day there may be a listing out there without our name on it. So it may be an opportunity we don't want, or it may have been a relationship that was pretty strong that didn't revolve around us. However, every day you have to build on that farm. You have to plant, you have to sow those seeds, and then you have to know how to trim and cultivate so that you keep that momentum going. Here's what happens when you get that momentum going. Then you can branch out into other areas and build new farms. That's what's going to get me through my last 10, 12 years in real estate that I'm choosing for myself. We're going from a 550 area farm that we've dominated this 21 years. And by the way, that's been a great career for any agent. We've enjoyed that very much. Now we're going into a 4,000 door farm. And our intention in a very short period, we want to dominate that area. Those are our intentions.
Good. And there's wisdom in that, guys, to first dominate your own backyard first, right? And it's like if you took a drop of ink and you dropped it on like a napkin. Well, it's going to soak up and it's going to begin to expand outward, right? And that's what we want. Otherwise, if you're tackling this neighborhood and that neighborhood and you're sending out 10,000 different, postcards every single month, you're diluting your focus. So let's get focused. Let's start small, yet think really big. And before you know it, you'll be branching out, branching out, and branching out. This gives you the opportunity to split test your calls to action, your CTA, to find out what's going to get you the highest number of conversions. Once you find out what works, well, then it's time to lean in, right? To dominate that neighborhood first, then expand and expand and expand. So great advice there. Now let's talk about systems, because that's the second category of leverage. See, a system to me, Greg, is nothing more and nothing less than a standardized process that produces a consistent and predictable result. So where have you applied systems to your business and that type of thinking that you do it the same way every time and you get this consistent, predictable result? What are your thoughts?
Well, I want to say a couple of things. First, it starts with your own personal self, having a system to maintain your own self, and that'll drive you into your business. Systems are easy to come by. They're very tough to follow. And I will tell you, in my career, and this is not because we're on this phone call, I have to bless your mom more than anything, because to this day, I use her original system that came in these, I don't know, I think I may have 13 different books about everything about a real estate.
19.
Form and system for that. And I can't tell you how many times throughout the year I'll go back for marketing ideas if I'm hiring a new employee, going back to that whole system for consistency. I keep drilling down on being confident and being consistent. There is no magic in real estate. Just being consistent and having a system to follow and an accountability that makes you want to follow that system every day. So having said that, when we have a new listing, there's no magic in getting that into the system. Follow a checklist. You go down through every single thing for consistency. Because what you don't want when you're building those relationships, you don't want one of your clients to say, well, my neighbor, you did this for, you didn't do that for me. That's where we fail in not being consistent. That will teach you some very expensive lessons. But that consistency will also make your life much easier. You'll find very quickly on dollar productive things, you don't need to be doing things that are not dollar productive for you. You don't have a system, you don't know what that's going to be. So you want to focus on things that bring in the big bucks. You can hire everything else out, you set those systems in place, you hold them consistent and accountable to make sure that they're running on a daily basis.
No doubt. So system development without accountability, guys, is like rowing a boat with one oar. You follow me? You're just going to go in circles. Rather, by systemizing your sales process, like Greg, a lot of people would ask me, Sean, how on earth can you close over 100 buyer side transactions per year? Well, it's because we systemized the sales process. We did it the same way every time to produce that consistent and predictable result. And by the way, it was developed in a fix, prevent mentality. So let me explain. Most realtors are just into fixing things, aren't they? I mean, they'll fix this, they'll put out that fire, they'll fix that and put out that fire. And before you know it, they feel more like a firefighter than they do a professional realtor. See, rather, in a fix, prevent mentality, you fix it once, and then you put a step in the process to make certain that it never, ever happens again, right? And that's how great systems are built. So as it relates to leverage, we've got models, we've got systems. And Greg, thanks for bringing up like checklists for everything to make sure that it's done consistently every single time. And then next we have technology. So Greg, you mentioned social media and the social media marketing you're doing. What other technologies do you use to maintain that level of production and still take 3 months off a year?
Well, social media is making it more fun because right now we think about systems and we think about paper, and I'm really changing everything that we do because if it's not fun, I'm not going to want to do it much longer. So, for example, I use a little smartphone app. All the things in our business that are repetitive can be turned into a system. And if it's been on paper, we can go green now. We can put it on, for example, a YouTube training mode. Now, I use a little funny app called Ripple, R-I-P-L. So yesterday, I created a new Ripple app, and it was the 10 Commandments of buying a home. All right, so what are the consistent things of buying a home? So you don't want to go out, once you start your loan process, for example, you don't want to go out and buy a new car. You don't want to change your marital status. You don't want to have any inquiries into your credit account. So why do I need to tell somebody that? If I'm out working with a new buyer, why not give them a little funny app that will just show them? Now, I've seen a whole bunch of varieties of that out there in the past. Some come through elaborate little movie clips with Moses, with the 10 Commandment plates that are out there. Just find out who your audience is and find out a good way and a fun way to appeal to them. Message isn't going to change. That's the basics. All the basics of our real estate career, they're not going to change. The approach, the consistency, and the delivery all will change. And I'm doing this today. There'll be some new method tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
there's always a disruptor, right?
Always a disruptor.
Okay, so we've talked through models, systems, technology a little bit, guys. The final category of leverage is people. So take a moment right now, Greg, just share with us about this lean and mean team that you've created that allows you to net such a high percentage of gross commission.
So it's consistency, and we have become lean. I've had a team as large as 12. That's no fun. It was no fun for me. I bless anybody that can make that happen, and at a high scale, that's really good. The older I get, the smaller I want my team to be, and we've kind of got the perfect little thing now. We have David, Mary Kay, and a full-time staff person that works well for us. So getting to people. If you don't have those relationships, if you're not consistent, if you're not confident, nothing that we've talked today matter, would they?
Right. No doubt. No doubt.
So being lean and mean, it's not about spending money. It's about investing where you need to invest. If you're not known, then obviously you're going to have to invest on getting yourself known. You need print material. You need collateral of all kinds. You need marketing, whether it's through print ads, social media, however you want to do that. Maybe it's creating your own video library. But you got to create all that collateral out there, because having that gives you, let me just give you a little bit of example. When you walk into a high-end mall, or you walk into a Nordstrom's, you have this expectation because everything is consistent. It's well-designed, well-placed. If you walk into a big box store, it's just chaos everywhere. Things are scattered everywhere. They're stacked up to the ceiling. So you don't want that for your business. And I always challenge everyone around me, especially when I'm teaching out in real estate. I don't want you to think like a real estate agent. I don't want you to go model other real estate agents. I want you to turn your eye out to the public and look and find those things out there that make an impression on you. Is it an ad that made you think about something differently? Was it the service you've gotten at Nordstrom's versus the service you've got at Walgreens? Those things that make Nordstrom's, and I'm just picking on Nordstrom's today because that's fresh in my mind. If that gave you a good experience, what from that can you bring back to our business? Go drive a luxury car and then go drive or go into a showroom that doesn't sell luxury cars. Find out what that experience and the differences are, and see what you can bring back to your own real estate business. Does that make sense?
Completely. Absolutely. Because, great customer service, well, it's more of a mindset than anything else. Wouldn't you agree?
It is, and it's an intention, by the way.
It's a what?
It's an intention.
Yes, undoubtedly it's an intention. I mean, think about it. Like the airline industry. I mean, sure, we can name a whole bunch of airlines that give horrible customer service, right? It's Delta, who gives you pillows and blankets, right? Where the others have taken them away while you're asleep, by the way. And who wins the award, though, year after year? It's Southwest Airlines. And yet they don't even offer first class, guys, because it's an attitude. Customer service is an attitude, is it not? It's an intention. And
and that's the model that they created. If you're Emirates Air, that's also something that they created. It's not for everybody. In fact, it's a bucket list that one day I'll fly on Emirates Air. I can't do that today. I'm not going anywhere today that they fly. However, if I wanted that luxurious experience, then I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to choose that. However, there are things about the whole process of Emirates Air that I can bring back to my local business. And that's what I'm saying. I'm going to challenge everyone. That's your homework. Find out those things that make an impact or that make that almost unobtainable. What of that can you bring back to your business and make that obtainable for your clients and customers?
I love it. So many of the people on the webinar today are in a tight inventory market. I mean, low inventory. And guys, I trust you're hearing what Greg is sharing with us. If you're in a low inventory market, now is the time to get as close to that database as you possibly can. Because the one thing that makes you different than any other realtor, the one thing that makes you unique is that database. And by the way, when you choose to retire from this business, the only thing that you'll possess in real estate that is worth anything to anybody as a real estate salesperson is, in fact, that database. And the closer you are to it, the more information you have in that database, the more valuable it becomes to a potential buyer of that database, right? So,
and isn't that kind of that's the conversation on every TV that you turn on right now? It's the data that matters. Ask Facebook. They're speaking with Congress right now. It wouldn't matter if there were no data there. Data is everything. You got to learn how to use it, learn how to read it, learn what you have. If you don't, if it's just a computer program with a name and a telephone number and an email, and that's all you see out of that, then that's all it's going to ever represent to you and not going to add much to your bottom line.
No doubt about that. All right. So a question came in from Walter Weinrich. Thank you for typing this in, Walter. He says, what is Greg specifically doing to dominate a farm area?
Oh, that's fun. That's a great question. I appreciate the opportunity to answer that. It's building the relationships through that farm. I walk those streets. We actually have a promo card. So when we have an open house in that community, the promo car is there, not our anonymous car. So our faces are on both sides of that van. Our signs are in that neighborhood. Every time that there's an opportunity to send out a just listed, just sold, those cards are constantly going out. No matter if we have 2 or 3 closings in that community per month, we send out 2 or 3 different postcards. We don't bunch them up. We want to show them that we're active, that we know what we're doing. People in that neighborhood know I can draw every floor plan from memory. They call me and say, I'm thinking about selling my property. I'll ask them a couple of questions and I'll tell them what floor plan they have. This was it was originally built by Syntex Homes, so I know every floor plan that they ever built in that community. I lived in that community for 12 years, so I watched a lot of them being built. I want to give market statistics, and I want to make sure that when we have closings, even with outside agents, now this is something I need everyone to think about. Every time there's a transaction, there are 2 sides to every transaction. You're representing one, if not both sides. On those opportunities where you don't have the other side, those are now called orphans. Don't leave them as orphans. I want you to adopt those other clients, because I can tell you those agents that are on the other side that you're working with, they will not keep up with their clients. You do a better job than they do, and I promise you that will serve you well in the future, because they're going to come back to you. So many of the opportunities I've had in my farm that I didn't have the other side, those are my new clients in the future, by the way, because they know I dominate that market. They don't go to their agents to ask the questions about that particular neighborhood. They come to us, and that's because we know it, and we know it well. We know how to connect them with almost everyone in that neighborhood. If they're stuck on something, we want to get them an answer and get it right away.
That's incredible. Great input. Great input. One of the ways that you can adopt orphaned buyers, by the way, those buyers that bought your listing, I picked this up from my good friend Todd Crockett out of Mentor, Ohio, the Crockett team, and they're just crushing it in real estate. I'm eventually going to have him on as an icon. I'll promise you that. Yet they taught me to, in essence, Kokoskatize the house, which means every time you take a listing, and once it closes, we would send our courier over with a bunch of the Kokoska Group stickers. And it had our contact information, our website, our phone number, all that stuff. And they would go to the furnace and they would stick the sticker on the front of the furnace right next to the HVAC person who installed that furnace. I mean, why did they put that sticker there, Greg, in the first place?
Because at some point, you're going to have to go to that location to do something. And guess what's going to pop out? It'll be your information.
Right. So they put it on the furnace, they put it on the hot water heater, they opened up the kitchen cabinet right under the sink, and they would stick one on the inside of the kitchen cabinet. In the electrical panel, they'd stick another one in there. The whole point was to Kokoskatize the home. So whenever they heard of somebody who wanted to buy or sell, they're like, oh gosh, what's their phone number again? Well, just open up your cabinet, it's right there, right? Or when they're thinking of selling, well, they know exactly where to get that information, right?
So here's why that works. If you do something on your furnace, you want to make sure you put a little sticker there with opportunities for them to go and say, as of this date, I changed the filter. As of this date, I changed the filter. At the very bottom, when it's all full, if you need a new sticker, call the Kokoska team. Here's the number. That's what makes that work, by the way.
That is what makes that work. Yes, exactly. Love it. Okay, so something else that we wanted to talk about today was consistency and competency, and we've referenced it several times, yet I know you wanted to get a couple of points out on that. We've got 6 minutes left, so just rapid fire for us, if you don't mind.
I'm going to rapid fire with questions. All right, so being consistency is just that. You have to do the same thing over. I tell you what, real estate is not sexy, but where it will take you is everything about being sexy. So the proof is in the pudding, by the way. You have to get up and go to work. You have to do the same thing over and over and over every day. If you don't like that, you're in the wrong business, I will just tell you. What it will bring to you You can go out and buy the clothes, the cars, the houses, the experiences. That's what that will bring to you. So being competent, there is no excuse whatsoever to have a phone call about real estate and something that you cannot answer that's bricks and mortar related. You need to know everything in the community. You need to look at MLS every day, find out what's been listed, what's sold, what's expired, what's been reduced. There's no exception to that whatsoever. You got to know the members. You have to know them every day. If you can't answer that, you're not the expert. And you're not the expert, comma, yet. You have that opportunity to learn.
I love it. And yet. Okay, so consistency, I think, needs to be in 3 categories. It's got to be in both look, feel, and frequency. Agreed?
Absolutely.
All right, so consistency.
Got to be authentic.
Now, the final point you wanted to talk about, and I'm really interested in this topic, gang, and that is to create your legacy. Tell me, what does that really mean to you, and what points would you share with our audience to help them do just that?
I'm going to take that in several directions. One, I'm going to do something about myself. So I've taught in 37 states, Canada, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Spain. I just taught in Dallas, and now I've been invited to come speak in Italy, Buenos Aires, Milan, I said Italy already, and Portugal. So having those opportunities is part of my legacy. Those little bits and pieces that I've left all around the country and now the world, that's meaningful to me. And that I get the feedback of, I'm so glad you shared that, because here's how that changed me. Here's what added something to my life. And it's free, by the way. Having this interview today with you, Sean, and all of your guests, there's an opportunity that can be life-changing for them, or to make small little nuggets that will make life, even in real estate, all better for them. That's leaving a legacy. So what you know, what you do well, be willing to share, even in your own backyard. Never feared that by the time someone's figured out what I'm doing, I'm on to something new. It doesn't change, however, the basics of our business. So that's part of the legacy. Now, outside of real estate, I think we have lots of opportunity that we can change the world. We can do that by being green, by donating our time and our money that are meaningful projects. Maybe it's our local Rotary Club, something that we do in our church, something we do building wells in Africa, water. Figure out what's important to you and have that happen. Now, here's how we can blend all of that together. We are helping clients. We're in a community with lots of kids, and most of the kids that are in our county, I'm proud to say, well, I know go to school. They're going to go not only finish their undergraduate school, they're going to go on to top, they'll go to college and then graduate school. So what really happens, even in wealthy neighborhoods like mine, we've got all these families that don't know how to pay for that college opportunity. So we can help them teach. What about if I gave you a thought? So you've had a new child 2 or 3 years later, show the parents, if you bought a property today in my neighborhood as an investment property, I will guarantee you 15 years from now, the entire college program for your kids, almost at any college, whether it's private or public, will be completely paid for. So why would we not want to share that message with our clientele, with our farm area? How can I help those kids and their grandkids learn how to make all that possible? And it's a small investment today to watch something grow and then have that legacy that they can leave to their kids and grandkids without debt. I look at TV every day and I see all the debt that's created from people wanting to go to school, be better, and they don't know how to pay for it. And then it becomes a negative in life. It's something that takes us so long to overcome. And I tell you, I've struggled with that as well. I've gone to school. I paid my loans off. And I'm happy to report to you, Sean, I'm like 7 days away. I've got this clock ticking. Closing on another investor property that I have. I'm paying off over $800,000 worth of personal mortgages by April the 30th to become debt-free. There's no greater feeling. How can we help our clients and our customers reach that same feeling? Think about the changing, and the imaging and the legacy that you can leave with them just by helping them take those steps.
Absolutely love it. I love it. And that's a line extension, by the way, to what you do every day. It makes total sense, right? So,
Right.
Many of us, and Greg, I know you and I both have done like the movie night appreciation events, or excuse me, legendary movie night appreciation events, and things like that. Yet I would encourage you to mix in a line extension to these events that tie into real estate as well, like a real estate investor seminar, which is educationally based. It's not one of these get rich quick schemes. It's a get rich for certain process, right? Where you educate them on how to be a good real estate investor and send their kids to college. I think it's a brilliant idea. So way to go, Greg. I really appreciate it. Any other questions, just real quick, type them into the chat bar. We did have somebody ask if we could role play asking for an appointment 6 times in one conversation. So, Greg, do you mind staying on the line just for a second longer and we can do just that?
Let's do it.
All right. So think through some of the most common buyer objections, guys. Like, for example, I've got a friend or family member in the business. I only work with the listing agent. Well, can you just meet me at the house? I don't want to come to your office. Can't you just email me the listings? I want to meet, or I want to talk. I need to talk to my spouse before we set an appointment. I'll call you back, and you never hear from him again. I mean, these are all the common objections. Yet when you've got powerful rebuttals for each of these common objections, which, by the way, we've got several of them on our website at iconcoachinre.com. And for our one-on-one clients and our group accelerator members, we've got the learning management system where we've got hundreds of scripts and videos that you can download. And these are the proven best practices in the industry, guys, to handle that objection, to reposture and ask again. So, Greg, if you don't mind, do you mind just being the buyer and I'll be the realtor?
Sure, let's go.
All right, perfect.
By the way, this exercise that we're doing, we learned from one of our great mentors who taught us to stay in curiosity and out of judgment. So when you talk about getting these questions and being consistent, asking 5 or 6 times, it's just getting, think about it. Just be curious. Why are we getting the objections that we're getting? It's kind of, if you've got the background, and we've all been there, we've had every one of these questions that that I'm going to give you or you're going to give me, we've had them over and over again a dozen times. So it's just like we got to repeat that back to them and ask them why that's important. So
I love it. I love it. So let's get into this, and then we'll kind of clear it out after the fact, and you could critique the role play. Is that okay, Greg?
That's fine. So Sean, could you just send me the listings and I'll get back with you?
Okay, perfect. Now let's just start from the very beginning, because I do want to demonstrate a transition strategy from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that will help you position yourself to close for an appointment. So let's just say, create a scenario. Sign call, 123 Main Street. And you know what they usually ask first, right?
It's all about the price.
Right, so let's get into that first. Here we go. Ring, ring. Hi, this is Sean. May I help you?
Hi, Sean. I was driving on Main Street and I saw that you have a new sign up on a property. What's the price of that?
Oh, that's a great property. Seems like everybody's calling in on that one. So you're in the market to buy a home.
I just am calling to get the price.
Perfect. Well, as I look that property up, tell me, what price range are you feeling comfortable with?
I'm in the 400,000 range.
Hey, good for you. That's fantastic. Well, here's what I'm doing. I'm logging into the multiple listing service platform. And in a matter of moments, I'll be able to share with you every property that matches your unique criteria, plus the information you contacted me about. It'll take just a moment. Real quick though, tell me, how many bedrooms would you like to have in your new home?
I'm looking at a 4-bedroom house. So my main purpose of driving that neighborhood is I'm moving there because of the school system.
Fantastic. How many in your family?
There are 4 of us.
Good job.
And 1 on the way.
I love it. And how many bathrooms would you require?
1 for all of us. Would be great. Need at least 3 bathrooms.
So I'm going to just continue down that line of questioning. How many car garage do you need? Do you want a newer home, older home? What style of home? That sort of thing. And what particular locations are you most interested in? And I'll click the how many button. And I'll say, you know what? I've got fantastic news. We've got 5 properties that match your unique criteria. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to simply set an appointment for you to come to my office. I'll download all the color photos, the virtual tours, the drone footage. You could view those listings on screen in my office before wasting your time or spending your money on gas to drive by them. So plus, I'll share with you several negotiating strategies that will help you get the best price on the home that you buy. And that is important to you, right?
It would be. I'd just like to get the information on this one first. Is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this one is listed for this, it's listed for that. I'll give you the information about the property, and let's agree that chances are it's more expensive than where you felt comfortable. Yet the key is I got your price point before I shared any information, right? So this one, the script would be, this one's a bit out of your price point. It's listed for $550,000. However, I've got 5 others that match your unique criteria. So I'll tell you what let's do. Let's simply set an appointment for you to come to the office. You can view these listings on screen in my office before you spend your time or your money, for that matter, on gas to drive by them. And I'd like to share with you several key negotiating strategies that will get you the best price on the home that you buy. So tell me, when is the best time for you to get together with me? Is it weekdays or weekends?
Probably weekdays would be best.
All right. Yeah, this, by the way, is the point we wanted to get to, right? This is where you're going to object. So, Greg, what are some of the common objections that you hear?
So I'm not ready to come into your office right now. I just want the information.
All right.
Just thinking about it.
Well, I certainly understand that. Yet it sounds to me like you really want to save your time in this process. Is that right?
I do. And I actually have a house to sell before I move to this neighborhood. So, I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Fantastic. I'm so glad we're on the phone together. You've caught me at the perfect time because I know I can help you. Number one, get the best price on the home that you sell and make sure that you get the best deal on the home that you buy. And that is important, right?
It would be.
Fantastic. So I'll tell you what let's do. Let's just simply set an appointment to where I can share all the comparable sales with you from your neighborhood, share with you the marketing strategy that has been proven to get you 6% above list price in today's market. And I'm going to also allow you to learn the negotiation side on the sale side as well as the buy side to not only get the most money when you sell, yet also get the best deal when you buy. So tell me, when's the best time we can get together? Is it weekdays or weekends?
It would probably be weekdays because we haven't talked to our kids yet. So we don't want to upset them.
Gotcha. So
school district.
Let me ask, I want my motivation to match your motivation. And let me tell you what I mean by that. If you wanted to sell your home tomorrow and you wanted to buy a home immediately, well, you'd probably want me to contact you personally every time a new listing comes on the market. Isn't that right?
That would be true, yeah.
Yeah, yet if you're not looking to buy or sell for the next 6 months, I would drive you insane if I contacted you every single day with new listings. Isn't that right?
Most definitely.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being an immediate need to list your home and buy another, and 1 meaning you're just curious, how would you rate yourself?
Well, we're about 3 weeks away from the end of school, and our goal is to buy something through the summer. So by the time August, September rolls around, the kids are going to be ready to start their new school.
Got it. Well, that's exactly why we need to get together. So tell me, when is the best time we can meet? Is it weekdays or weekends?
Weekdays again.
Okay. So guys, what I wanted to do was simply demonstrate how to handle the objection, how to reposture, and yet have the mindset to ask again and ask again and ask again. See, in every call, there's a sale that's made. Either you sell them on why they should do business with you or they sell you on why they shouldn't, right? And it's those that have tenacity, those that are like a bulldog on a bone. They're just not going to let it go. You follow me? And that's what I want you to be on every one of those calls, to reposture and ask again, reposture and ask again. And the good news is there's really only 6 or 7 common buyer objections. And when you master that, when you know what to say, when you know how to say it, and you're saying it to enough people, guys, you're going to achieve the success that you're after. And then once you get to a position that you're so busy, like Greg, then you're going to start leveraging through people. And we've got the organizational structure. We've got all the compensation models to make it super easy for you to implement those strategies in your business and get immediate traction, to really shortcut the learning curve. Now, Greg, I would be remiss if I didn't ask one last question. What was the biggest misstep in your career that prolonged your journey to success?
Great question. Probably thinking I was all that and it wouldn't change. And that was not my reality because I didn't have the best feedback system in place. I took my eye off the numbers, and I just thought it would last forever.
Got it.
It didn't.
So oftentimes we find ourselves drunk on the wine of our own success and we take our eye off the ball, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
Focused on the wrong things, I will say.
That's great advice for all of us. Is a great reminder. Just keep your eye on the ball. You know, don't think it's always going to be this good, right? It's the paranoid that really survive in this business, isn't it, Greg?
Just turn your TV on because nothing's going to change. Nothing will stay the same. It will not stay the same in real estate. It's just like a roller coaster ride. It's just, and there's no predictive analysis out there that's actually pegged anything yet. However, if you look to the past, you see parts of the future, and that changing real estate market's coming.
No doubt about that. All right, and finally, what's your favorite quote, Greg? Or what's a quote that's maybe shifted your mindset such that you took more appropriate and aggressive action?
Gosh, I have so many of them. Being kind is what I'm hooked on right now. There's not enough kindness in the work, and just be kind. Greet people with a smile and kindness. I don't know what else to say today because that's where my mind is.
Good job. Well, Greg, you're living proof that the nice guy doesn't always finish last, buddy. So thank you. I appreciate your time today, everybody. And Greg, good job, man. Keep up the great work and enjoy those 3 months off, a month at a time, by the way. He'll take off for 30 days and he comes back and it's still running like clockwork. So Greg, congratulations to you, buddy, on all the success. And guys, there will be a replay of this. It will be going out tomorrow afternoon, and we'll post it on the Icon Accelerator Learning Management System. So thanks for your time, everybody. If you have any questions, concerns, challenges, if you're interested in investigating coaching with us, just drop me an email. Here's my personal email address. I'll put it in the chat bar. It's Sean, S-H-O-N, at iconcoachinre.com. Just drop me a direct email. I'll send you a link to my calendar. You and I can get on the phone for a business assessment. If nothing else, we'll identify the gaps that exist in your current models and systems, and I'll share with you our methodology that you can implement and deploy. And if you like what you hear and you want to engage in coaching, we can see what that looks like at that time. So thank you guys, everybody, for your time. And I'm setting that up right now. What are your final thoughts and parting words of wisdom for these guys, Greg?
So I would say don't be afraid to invest in your future. It will cost you otherwise if you don't do that. It takes a structure. It takes intentions. Find the real deal. Be authentic to yourself. Feedback, and know that if you don't invest in more money in yourself versus promoting just real estate, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. So continue to invest in yourself. I have coaching. I've lived and loved coaching. I love accountability. I love that feedback. It doesn't come easy. However, it's always made me, I always walk away being stronger after every call I get on coaching. Even with this interview today, I've written down several notes that will make me stronger tomorrow.
Good job.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Sean, for the opportunity.
The constant student. I absolutely love it. And by the way, Greg is in Naples, Florida, gang. If you have clients, past clients that are looking to buy in a second home market, please, how would they get in touch with you, Greg?
We're really easy. On the web, you can reach us at thinknaples.com. It's very easy. If you're on Facebook watching us live, reach out to us. It's Facebook.com/Greg Gorman Naples, or you can just do Facebook.com/Think Naples. That's the easiest way to reach us.
All right, I just typed it in, thinknaples.com.
Got it.
All right, way to go, Greg. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month as we have our next Icon of the Month webinar series. Great job, Greg. See you later.
Keep it up.